There's a moment happening right now, somewhere in your city, where a stranger is sitting in a car outside a coffee shop, holding nothing but a laptop and a phone number that is not his. He does not need your phone. He does not need to touch it, steal it, or even see it. He needs 4 things: your name, your date of birth, a few digits from your identity documents, and 30 minutes on a phone call with your carrier's customer service line. That is all it takes for your entire digital life to change hands. And here is the part that should unsettle you the most. Your phone will still be sitting right there in your pocket, fully charged, screen lit up, looking completely normal, while somewhere else, a criminal is receiving your text messages, your login codes, and your bank alerts as if he were you. This is not science fiction. This is not a rare edge case buried in a cybersecurity report nobody reads. This is happening thousands of times a year, and most people who get hit never see it coming until the money is already gone. Let's start with the sentence that should stop you cold. Your phone number is not just a way to reach you. It has quietly become the master key to almost everything you own online. Your bank, your email, your cryptocurrency wallet, your social media. Somewhere along the way, without anyone really voting on it, the humble 10-digit number became the backbone of digital trust. And once you understand that, you start to understand why criminals stopped trying to hack your passwords directly and started hunting for something much simpler: your identity wrapped inside a SIM card. Here's where it gets worse. The attack we're talking about today doesn't require the criminal to be a genius coder. It doesn't require malware, viruses, or breaking into some hardened server. It requires something far more human and far more exploitable: a phone call. This is called SIM swapping, sometimes referred to as SIM hijacking or port-out fraud, and it is one of the fastest growing forms of identity theft happening in 2026. The mechanics are almost insultingly simple once you see them laid out. An attacker gathers pieces of your personal information: your name, address, date of birth, maybe the last 4 digits of a government ID, pulled from old data breaches, from social media oversharing, from data broker sites that quietly sell your details to anyone willing to pay. Then he calls your mobile carrier or walks into a store and calmly tells them he lost his phone or it broke, and he needs a new SIM card activated on his number. Except the number he's asking for isn't his, it's yours. Think about what that means for a second. Somewhere on the other end of that phone call, a customer service representative, tired, rushed, working through a call queue, is being asked to verify an identity using nothing but a script of security questions: name, address, birthday. Numbers that, in 2026, are not secrets anymore. They've leaked, they've been sold, they've been scraped. And once that representative is convinced, or in some cases, once a corrupt insider inside the call center is paid to look the other way, your phone number gets transferred to a SIM card the attacker is holding in his own device. The moment that transfer completes, your phone goes silent. No bars, no signal. Emergency calls only. And from that second forward, every call and every text message meant for you is now landing in a stranger's hand. This is not chaos. This is strategy. Because the real target was never your phone. The real target was every single account you've ever protected with a text message code. Read that again. Every password reset link. Every 2-factor authentication code. Every, "We noticed a new login. Was this you?" text. All of it now flowing straight into the attacker's device, while your own phone sits there, dead to the network, completely unaware of what's unfolding. Here's the part almost nobody talks about, and it's the part that turns this from a scary story into a full-blown crisis. Security researchers tracking this threat throughout 2026 have found that SIM swap fraud rarely stops at just draining a bank account. Once an attacker has your number, he has the master override for almost every recovery system built into modern digital life. He resets your email password using a text code. Once he's in your email, he uses that as a hub to reset your banking password, because banks almost always send recovery links to your email first. Then he's inside your brokerage account, your crypto wallet, your cloud storage, or your social media, because every single one of those platforms at some point trusted a phone number as proof that you are who you say you are. One stolen number becomes a master key to a dozen locked doors, and the terrifying part is that all of those doors open in a matter of minutes, not days. And this is where the human cost becomes real. Not theoretical, not a statistic on a slide. Real people in real cities, watching their financial lives get dismantled in real time. There's a documented case from Florida involving a woman who suddenly lost access to her phone account without warning. In the chaos that followed, fraudsters spent more than $17,000 and attempted to sell off over $50,000 worth of stock from her brokerage account. In another separate case, a different Florida victim managed to recover $96,000 after fraudsters drained her accounts. But that recovery is far from guaranteed. Banks are not obligated to make you whole again. Some victims get their money back, many don't. And even when the money is eventually returned, the weeks spent locked out of your own identity, fighting with call centers, filing disputes, proving you are you, that cost never gets refunded. But here's where it gets worse, because the story doesn't stop at individual victims anymore. Cybersecurity investigators tracking underground criminal networks throughout 2026 have found something that should worry all of us far more than a single scam artist working alone. SIM swapping has industrialized. There are now organized channels, operating in the shadows of encrypted messaging platforms, where criminals openly advertise SIM swap services, recruit insiders working inside telecom call centers, and sell what amount to complete identity kits. Your name, your address, your date of birth, your security answers, all bundled together and sold to the highest bidder. What used to require a skilled, patient con artist now requires almost nothing. A criminal with no technical skill whatsoever can simply buy access. The barrier to entry has collapsed, and investigators have noted a disturbing trend. Younger and younger individuals are being pulled into this ecosystem, treating identity theft not as a dangerous crime, but as a low-effort side hustle advertised in group chats. Now think about who becomes the biggest prize in a world like this. It isn't just everyday consumers anymore. Corporate investigators have flagged company executives as especially high-value targets because a hijacked phone number belonging to a CEO or CFO can be weaponized for something even more devastating than personal theft: business email compromise. Picture this. An attacker takes over the phone number of a company's chief financial officer. He used that number to slip past two-factor authentication and gain access to the executive's email. From inside that inbox, he sends what looks like a completely legitimate, urgent instruction to the finance department. Authorize an emergency wire transfer, pay an outstanding invoice, move funds to a new account before end of day. No malware, no hacking in the traditional sense, just a stolen phone number and a convincing email. Researchers estimate that business email compromise schemes, frequently enabled by exactly this kind of identity takeover, cost organizations billions of dollars every single year worldwide. And this is the moment where you need to understand the deeper, uglier truth sitting underneath all of this. The entire system of text message security that billions of people rely on every single day was never actually designed to protect your identity. It was designed to protect your device. When your bank sends you a 6-digit code by SMS, that code only proves one thing: that a message reached a particular SIM card. It says nothing about who is actually holding that SIM card at the moment the message arrives. In 2026, cybersecurity analysts have started drawing a sharp distinction that most consumers have never been told about: the difference between account security and identity security. Your password protects the account, but your phone number, the very foundation the account recovery is built on top of, was never truly protected at all. If someone controls the foundation, it doesn't matter how strong the lock on the door is. They just walk underneath it. Now here's where things escalate even further, because SIM swapping isn't even the only way your number can be hijacked. There's a second, quieter, more technically advanced method that some attackers use, one that doesn't even require tricking a carrier employee at all. It's called an SS7 attack, named after Signaling System 7, an aging piece of global telecom infrastructure that routes calls and texts between carriers worldwide. Security researchers have documented cases where sophisticated attackers exploit weaknesses in this decades-old signaling protocol to intercept and redirect text messages and calls without ever touching your SIM card or contacting your carrier at all. It's rarer, it requires far more resources and technical capability, and it tends to be reserved for high-value targets. But its existence proves something important. Even if you personally lock down your carrier account perfectly, the phone number system itself has cracks in its foundation that predate almost every security measure built on top of it. So how do you know if it's happening to you? This is the part that matters most, because in almost every documented case, the warning signs were there. Small, easy to dismiss, and almost always ignored until it was too late. The first sign, and the one victims describe most consistently, is sudden and unexplained loss of service. Your phone shows no service, or emergency calls only, in a location where you normally have perfectly strong signal. Most people's first instinct is to assume it's a network outage, a billing glitch, or just their carrier having a bad day. That assumption is exactly what attackers are counting on. One woman targeted in a SIM swap scam later described the moment she realized something was deeply wrong. She tried to make a phone call, and it simply wouldn't go through. She said, if that ever happens to you, that's the moment to stop assuming and start acting, because by the time your signal disappears, the transfer has usually already completed. The second sign is a wave of account notifications you never triggered. Password changed emails you didn't request, login alerts from devices you don't recognize, purchase confirmations for things you never bought. On their own, each of these can look like noise, a glitch, spam, a misfire. But together, in a short window of time, they form a pattern, and that pattern is the unmistakable shape of an identity takeover already in motion. This is exactly why security experts now say the danger isn't any single alert, it's the cluster. If you get more than one of these within the same hour, treat it as an emergency, not an inconvenience. The third sign is being locked out of accounts that should recognize you instantly. Your email suddenly rejects your password. Your banking app says your credentials are invalid. Your social media platform asks you to verify your identity through a phone number that, unknown to you, is no longer actually yours. This is the moment attackers move from surveillance into active takeover, resetting passwords one by one, methodically claiming ownership of your digital life while you're still trying to figure out why your phone won't send a text message. The fourth sign is a direct message from your carrier about a SIM or account change you never requested. This might arrive as an email, since attackers usually can't intercept a notification sent to a channel they haven't taken over yet. It might say your SIM card has been activated on a new device, or that a port-out request has been submitted for your number. Do not dismiss this as spam. Do not assume it's a phishing attempt, trying to scare you into clicking a link. In 2026, under expanded regulatory requirements from federal communications authorities, wireless carriers are now required to notify customers immediately when a SIM change or port-out request is made on their account. That notification exists specifically because this attack has become common enough that regulators had to force the industry's hand. If it arrives, and you didn't request the change, that message is not noise. That message is the alarm bell. The fifth sign is unexpected financial activity appearing almost simultaneously with the first four signs. Investigators studying SIM fraud cases have found that a significant portion of these attacks, well over a third, according to threat intelligence research published in 2026, involve multiple unauthorized transactions happening in rapid succession once the swap is complete. Not one strange charge. A sequence. Attackers move fast because they know their access window is limited, and the moment you notice, the clock starts ticking against them. So if you see one unfamiliar transaction, don't treat it as an isolated incident. Assume there are more coming and act as if the entire foundation of your digital identity is already compromised, because at that point, it likely is. Now here is where the story shifts, because up until this point, we've been describing the disease. What comes next is the cure, and it matters just as much as understanding the threat itself, because knowledge without action is just anxiety with extra steps. The single most important thing you can do, starting today, before anything happens to you, is call your mobile carrier and set up what's known as a port-out PIN, or a carrier account lock. This is a secondary password, separate from your regular account login. That must be provided before anyone, including someone claiming to be you, can transfer your number to a new SIM card or a different carrier. Most major carriers now offer this, and in many cases, it requires in-person identity verification or specific account knowledge before any SIM change request can be processed. This single step transforms your account from an easy social engineering target into something that requires far more than a convincing story over the phone. It doesn't make you invincible, but it makes you dramatically harder to hit than the millions of people who've never even heard this feature exists. The second layer of defense is walking away from text message-based two-factor authentication wherever you possibly can. This is the uncomfortable truth that the entire security industry has been forced to confront in 2026. SMS was never built to be a strong second factor. It was simply the most convenient one. Instead, security researchers overwhelmingly recommend switching to authenticator apps, tools that generate rotating codes directly on your device without ever touching your phone number at all. These codes cannot be intercepted through a SIM swap because they don't rely on your carrier whatsoever. They live inside an app on your device, generated by an algorithm that no phone hijacking can touch. For your most sensitive accounts, your primary email, your banking, your cryptocurrency exchanges, this single switch closes the exact door that SIM swap attackers are counting on you leaving open. The third layer, and increasingly the gold standard being pushed by major technology companies throughout 2026, is passkeys and hardware security keys. A passkey ties your login to a specific device using cryptography, rather than a code that travels through vulnerable channels. A hardware security key goes even further, requiring someone to physically possess a small physical device and, in many cases, physically touch it before a login can succeed. Neither of these can be phished, socially engineered, or intercepted through a stolen phone number because neither of them depends on your phone number at all. The technology industry is not pretending this migration happens overnight. Moving an entire population away from text message codes is described by experts as a multi-year transition, not a single update. But for your highest value accounts, you do not have to wait for the entire world to catch up. You can make that switch today. The fourth layer is something most people underestimate completely, and it goes back to where this entire attack starts in the first place. Your personal information sitting out in the open. Attackers don't guess your birthday or your address. They find it sitting in old data breaches, sitting on data broker websites that buy and sell consumer information as a business model, sitting inside your own social media posts where you casually mentioned your hometown, your pet's name, or your mother's maiden name in some harmless-looking quiz or birthday post. Reducing the raw material available to an attacker doesn't just make you safer from SIM swapping. It makes you a fundamentally less attractive target across every category of digital fraud. Be deliberate about what you share publicly. Think twice before answering those fun facts about me chain posts. Consider using different, unconnected email addresses for your banking versus your social accounts, so that a breach in one place doesn't become the master key that unlocks everything else you own. And the fifth layer is speed of response, because even the best defenses in the world sometimes fail, and what separates a minor scare from a financial catastrophe is almost always measured in minutes, not days. If your phone suddenly loses service without explanation, don't wait to see if it fixes itself. Use another phone immediately and call your carrier. Tell them you believe you're the victim of an unauthorized SIM swap and demand an immediate freeze on your account. Then move straight to your email, because in most cases that's the account every other recovery flow depends on, and change that password first. From there, work outward. Your banking, your cryptocurrency exchange, anywhere your identity has financial weight. Revoke active sessions everywhere the option exists, forcing every device, including the attackers, to be logged out simultaneously. Document everything, every call, every timestamp, every representative you speak to. Because if you end up disputing fraudulent transactions later, that paper trail becomes your evidence. Here's something that deserves real weight, and it isn't often said clearly enough. Regulators have started fighting back on your behalf, and it's worth knowing that you're not facing this threat entirely alone. Federal communications authorities have implemented rules requiring wireless carriers to use secure authentication before transferring a phone number, requiring them to offer account locks specifically designed to block unauthorized SIM changes, and requiring immediate customer notification the moment a SIM change or port out request is submitted. These protections exist because this exact crisis became common enough and damaging enough that regulators had no choice but to act. But regulation only works if you actually use the tools it created. A port out PIN that's never requested protects no one. An account lock that's never activated is nothing but a feature sitting unused in a settings menu somewhere. The system has finally started building a wall, but you are the one who has to actually close the gate. So where does this leave us? The uncomfortable truth is that as more and more of our financial, personal, and professional lives migrate onto our phones, the phone number itself becomes a more valuable target, not a less valuable one. The shift toward electronic SIM technology and remote provisioning that lets numbers move between devices faster than ever before means the barrier for this kind of attack keeps getting lower, even as awareness slowly rises to meet it. Analysts tracking this threat throughout 2026 describe it plainly. Attackers go wherever the path of least resistance leads them. And right now, that path still runs directly through the 10 digits sitting in your contacts under me. Somewhere tonight, a call center employee is going to answer a phone call from someone claiming to be a customer who lost their SIM card. Maybe that call is legitimate. Maybe it isn't. Somewhere tonight, a person is going to glance at their phone, notice it says no service, shrug, and assume it's just their carrier acting up again, never realizing that the 30 seconds they spend ignoring it might be the exact window that decides whether they keep control of their identity or lose it. The question isn't whether this kind of attack is real. It clearly is, and it's only getting more organized, more industrialized, and more accessible to criminals, with less and less skill required to pull it off. The real question is whether you find out about the warning signs before it happens to you or after, while you're on hold with your bank, watching your account balance disappear in real time, wondering how a stranger became you without ever laying a finger on your phone. There's one more layer to this story that rarely gets discussed, and it involves not you, but the machines that increasingly run in the background of modern life. Every connected device around you, smart home hubs, vehicle tracking systems, medical monitoring equipment, industrial sensors, often relies on its own embedded SIM to stay connected to a network quietly, without a human ever checking in on it. Security researchers monitoring these environments have pointed out something unsettling. Because there's no person watching a screen and noticing a no service message, a hijacked device SIM can go unnoticed for far longer than a hijacked phone. Devices simply go silent, drop off networks, or start behaving strangely, and by the time anyone investigates, the profile attached to that SIM may already belong to someone else entirely. It's a reminder that this isn't only a consumer problem sitting inside someone's pocket. It's a foundational identity problem sitting underneath an entire connected world, one that's expanding every single year. As more of daily life quietly gets wired into cellular networks nobody thinks twice about. That expansion is exactly why the industry response has started shifting from reaction to prediction. Instead of waiting for a swap to happen and then scrambling to clean up the damage, forward-looking security teams are now building systems that treat a recent SIM change as a red flag before any transaction is even approved. Picture it like this. A bank's fraud system quietly checks, in the background, whether the SIM tied to your number changed in the last few hours. If it did, and someone immediately tries to push through a large transfer or add a new payee, that combination doesn't get treated as routine. It gets flagged, slowed down, or blocked outright, forcing a second form of verification before a single dollar moves. This is the direction serious financial institutions are heading in throughout 2026, not throwing away the convenience of a text message code entirely, but wrapping it in a layer of context. A code that gets delivered instantly still means nothing if the phone number itself just changed hands an hour earlier. Recognizing that distinction, researchers argue, is the single missing piece that turned an invisible attack into something finally visible before the damage is done. None of this means you should panic every time your phone glitches or drops a bar of signal in a parking garage. Most connectivity issues really are exactly what they look like. Ordinary, boring, meaningless network hiccups. But the difference between an ordinary hiccup and the opening minute of an identity theft in progress is rarely obvious in the moment. It only becomes obvious in hindsight after the second sign appears, then the third, stacking on top of each other in a pattern too consistent to be coincidence. That is precisely why waiting to see what happens next is the single most dangerous instinct you can follow. The 5 signs covered here were never meant to be memorized in isolation. They were meant to be recognized together as a sequence, because that's exactly how real victims have described experiencing them, not as one dramatic moment, but as a slow, sickening realization that pieces, which seemed unrelated, were actually the same event unfolding in real time. So take the 15 minutes this week that most people never take. Call your carrier. Ask directly for a poured-out PIN or an account lock, and don't hang up until it's confirmed active. Open your most important accounts. Your email first, then banking, then anything holding money or sensitive data, and swap out text message codes for an authenticator app or a passkey wherever the option exists. Search your own name the way a stranger would, and notice how much of your life is already sitting out in public view, waiting to be assembled into a convincing enough story to fool a call center employee on a slow afternoon. None of these steps are complicated. None of them require technical expertise. What they require is the willingness to treat your phone number as what it actually is in 2026. Not a convenience, but the foundation everything else stands on, and a foundation worth protecting before someone else decides to stand on it instead.